Alright, quick update on Jasmy. So it seems like we've come down to our first price target in this green box. So if you haven't watched my past few videos, I've been talking about how I think Jasmy is going to at least come down to 2.5 cent. And what I said specifically was, I think this green box is going to hold nonetheless. But I think it is very, very likely. I said, my gut feeling and the analysis that I do is all kind of pointing that momentum is going to at least move us down to 2.3 cents. So I'm really still sticking with that. We've come down to our first price target at the 2.5. Previously I said I see us at least coming to 2.5, which is this 618 Fibonacci, before we do have a reversal. But like I said, I think the most likely place for us to come down to is 2.3 cent. We really do need to hold 2.3 cent. And I highlighted this before. I mean, technically, you've got a 786 Fibonacci down here at, basically 2 cent. And while I'm not, the biggest fan of the chance of us having this big rally and coming back to the 786, that is really just my feeling. But if we look at what's going on the charts, you can see previously we've done this. We've gone absolutely parabolic, been rejected, come down to the 786, and then had a huge impulse. So, what my gut's saying is that we really need to bottom at 2.3 cent, but, looking at the charts, a move down to 2 cent is still, completely bullish in terms of the macro market structure. And I think we're at least going to come down to the 2.3 cent. I think the volume is stacking up on the daily. The squeeze mom daily momentum indicator is really pulling us down to this region. So, I was basically saying this when we were all the way in this this descending triangle / bullish pennant. I was talking about how we're really picking momentum back to the downside. Selling volume wasn't necessarily coming in then, but I was saying I think momentum is going to bring us back down. So we've hit our first price target, 2.5 cent. I'm still calling for a move back down to 2.3 cent. If we kind of check out what's going on in the smaller time frames, once again, squeeze momentum on the 4-hourly is really picking up to the downside. So what I kind of see here, I mean, this could go either way in the short term. Now, to start with, we're seeing a lot of selling volume in the 4-hourly really pick up in the past 8 hours or so. So while this is happening, while we're seeing lots of selling volume coming in, I also do notice that the squeeze mom really likes to kind of top out a lot of the time around these regions, but nonetheless, previously when we entered much more macro bearish trends, the squeeze momentum can really pick up to the downside. So I want to highlight you on the possibility that we could, potentially move up to this short-term moving average on the 4-hourly EMA ribbon. It's not my most likely scenario, but, I'm just saying this to be prepared, because if we have this move coming in, which is like another 8% pump, I imagine a lot of people would kind of FOMO into this rally, thinking that, we could be having a reversal, and, we'd still be running into not even the long-term moving average on the 4-hourly EMAs. I mean, the long-term is all the way up here at basically 3 cent. This is a 4-hourly EMA ribbon, so if you're watching this in 4 hours or 8 hours, the price of this is going to continue to move to the downside, especially if we haven't moved around too much. So once again, this is really a little bit of copium that I'm providing for the bulls, but nonetheless, I would not be betting on a move back to the upside. It is really just something that I wanted to highlight as a potential possibility, because sometimes we do top out here, but when we enter much more macro bearish trends, we do fall off the top. We do fall off the table a bit. So this is really just a quick copium scenario I wanted to provide you. Once again, I would not necessarily be too surprised if it moved up 8% in the short term, but this is really a short-term perspective, and I wouldn't be focusing on the 4-hourly too much. Take that with a grain of salt, because I think what we're seeing on the daily is very clear-cut, and I think the macro, or at least the mid-term momentum on the daily, is still bringing us down, and we're seeing, lots of selling volume. So once again, my most likely scenario is that we're going to at least come down to 2.3 cent. I said in the previous video, I think we're at least going to come down to 2.5 cent. We've obviously tagged that now, so I'm still sticking with 2.3 cent. We're still seeing much more momentum pick up, and it's getting worse by the day. So while I'm not the biggest fan of this scenario, you know, the technicals are really kind of indicating to me that we might even have a move down to 2 cent. You know, previously I've been saying 2.3 cent needs to hold. I have shown you scenarios where we have, you know, initiated these rallies, come back to the 786 and started to, you know, fire off. So I'm personally going to be sitting on the sidelines for Jasmy until we at least have a strong bottom around the 2.3 cent to the 2 cent. Now, once again, my gut feeling is really saying we need to keep our eyes on 2.3, but all the technicals, all the momentum indicators, they're really pointing to me that we're going to have a move down to 2 cent. And, you know, once again, I could be wrong, but this is a 25% move. I wouldn't be too surprised. And, you know, to tie this all in a neat bow, why I even think that we could come back down to the 786 is if we come over to Bitcoin, which, by the way, if it's your first time watching my channel, even though it's a Jasmy video, I like to look at the other markets to kind of give me a general idea of where the markets are moving as a whole, because Jasmy is going to follow Bitcoin. Jasmy is not a market outlier. It is going to do exactly what Bitcoin does, in my opinion. And if we look at what's going on with Bitcoin, the squeeze momentum indicator has just reset at the heartline. The last time this happened, we entered a short-term bearish trend, and, you know, we're way below these EMA ribbons up here at 43,000 now. The short-term moving average is starting to converge, and I've highlighted this before. If we put in daily closes below 42,500, I'd have to assume that Bitcoin is going to come back down to both the psychological level of 40,000, which also lines up with this uptrend, which also lines up with, I believe this was our price target of the M pattern. I haven't, let me see. Where is that from? I imagine this was the M pattern breakdown target. Let me just make sure it's the right target to start with. Bada bing, bada boom. No? Okay, so I don't know where this price target came. Oh, okay. No, this is a bull flag or a bear flag breakdown target from this 4 hourly. I cover so many cryptos that I forget some of my targets, but yeah. So I'm really looking at Bitcoin to potentially be moving down to 40,000 as a quick flush out, and not only have we got, you know, that psychological level slash, you know, price target of the bear flag breakdown slash retest of this uptrending trend line on Bitcoin, I believe this is also your 0.5 Fibonacci. So I see a lot of confluence and confidence in the market coming down to 40,000. I unfortunately do think, you know, if we put in another daily close below 42,500, that's going to be a confirmed breakdown for Bitcoin. And I'd have to assume that if Bitcoin is going to move down approximately 7%, then I would no longer be of the opinion that Jasmy is only going to move down 10% to this previous local low. So I'm kind of switching from what I said yesterday. Nonetheless, what I've been saying for the past couple of weeks or so is I believe we're coming down to 2.3 cent, and then we'd have a strong bounce. I am kind of thinking of switching this today. So in my opinion right now, what my perspective is we've already hit my first price target at 618. I'm still sticking with this. I think we are very likely to come down to 2.3 cent. All the momentum indicators are pointing to it. The macro market perspective in Bitcoin is pointing towards it, and, you know, really momentum and selling volume is stepping up. So 2.3 cent is my, you know, most conservative target, but I'm starting to think, you know, all the technicals are really kind of showing me, and I really can't ignore these technicals or just sugarcoat over them. I kind of have to change my opinion when new data's coming in, but, you know, the momentum indicators are really showing me that we could be having a move down to 2 cent, and we need to hold 2 cent. If we don't hold 2 cent, this entire uptrend is going to be invalidated, and we never even switch green on the daily EMA ribbons, so we'd still be in a very harsh downtrend. So keep that in mind. Once again, the scenario that I said on the 4 hour, potentially retesting the EMA ribbon, that is kind of just a little bit of copium. That is, you know, what the 4 hour is kind of showing me could potentially be playing out, but I'm not putting too much weight on that. I'm really focusing on the daily, and, you know, the daily is showing me we're at least going to be getting ready for another 9 to 10% breakdown, and we could potentially be coming down 25%. If you see Bitcoin starting to landslide tomorrow, unless we have a strong impulse above 42.5, I'd have to assume that, you know, 2 cent is going to be in play for Jasmy. So that's what I've got in mind right now. Once again, I think we're at least coming down to 2.3 cent, but we need to be open-minded and potentially consider that 2 cent is going to be hit before a market reversal. So that is all I see for Jasmy. Best of luck if you're in it. Best of luck if you're looking to get in. Once again, none of this is financial advice, just my opinion on the market. And you've always got to do what's best for you. Cowboy out. Peace.